Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's conversation. I'm so excited to have this particular live with our special guest, Sarah Needham. Hi, Sarah. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well. I'm excited about today's conversation because today we're talking about opportunities for women in leadership, recreating female leadership narrative as a positive advantage, starting today with new leadership coach, Sarah Needham. So if you haven't met Sarah yet, Sarah is a new leadership coach and the voice for transforming businesses to create a more sustainable future for life on earth. She believes that a business that will is the businesses that will transform the corporate landscape in the next 10 years and put the inclusive leadership at the heart of innovative solutions. She also believes that the world needs to see new form of leadership, and this plays into the hand of women. So the future is female. Well, welcome, Sarah. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what a lovely introduction. Yeah, it's exciting. I think there's so much changing in the world right now, and there's so much that makes a lot of us feel uncomfortable that I honestly take that as our calling to say that something's got to change. Something's fundamentally got to change in the leadership we're seeing around us in the world. And actually, that's one of the reasons I got in touch with you in the starting point, was because I believe as women, we can do this differently. We stand for something different. And bringing this together and amplifying each other's voices like you do through the Thrive Summit is just so important to show that we can collaborate and connect with each other and support each other without competing.
Yeah, I love that. I love this, collaboration over competition, really bringing our advantages together to make a difference. So, why have you chosen leadership as a topic that you champion?
Good question. So I was a leader in industry for probably about 15 years of my 17 years in industry. I started as an engineer and worked my way up fairly quickly, probably partly because I was a woman in a man's world. But what I realized, having stepped out, having felt that discomfort for myself and realizing actually I wasn't in the right place to create an impact, was I could have created an awful lot more of an impact had I allowed myself to be me in leadership and actually amplified the things that made me different rather than trying to hide them. And this is a lot about what I'm talking about in terms of new leadership. Is there's a lot to do with connection to ourselves, taking the courage to really get to know ourselves in a new way so that we can connect with others in a different way. We can contribute by amplifying ourselves and others. And this is really the key to it all, is this self-reflection. I mean, I didn't even know what coaching was when I was a leader. If I had, maybe I wouldn't have been there quite as long as I was. But on the other hand, it was really my awakening to the fact that there's a different way to do this. I don't want people to suffer in the same way I felt like I suffered internally, because everyone externally saw this, what I could do and what I could achieve. But actually, internally, I was still feeling super uncomfortable.
And it's so interesting because we take these roles of leadership, of being leaders in our homes, in our jobs, and in different environments. But sometimes we have to play that role as opposed to actually being empowered in our role in those shoes. So you're really rewriting this narrative around leadership and voicing this very strongly. Why is it important? Why this new leadership paradigm is so important right now?
I think, again, the discomfort that we're seeing around what we're seeing in terms of leadership in politics and in a lot of businesses is what's driving me, because it's not working. Fundamentally, a lot of people are feeling very uncomfortable, either burnt out, overwhelmed, because there's so much going on in the world that they do not associate with. And this makes it really difficult when people are at this level of stress to be able to create change in the areas we so fundamentally need to be able to move our human era forward, if you want to call it that. We're not going to be able to create a more sustainable future for life on Earth when we've only got 21% engagement in business, like the latest Gallup stats show,
Wow.
or when we've got 25% of people recognizing regular signs of burnout. And it's like, well, this is such a waste of human potential. We need to fundamentally change how we're engaging, inspiring, motivating our teams. And yes, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world, but it is not consistent. If you go into a business, you'll find little pockets of teams that are working if you've got a very conscious leader within that team. But then you'll hear other stories of the same business that's maybe even winning awards for diversity, for engagement, where actually people are really struggling. And businesses aren't set up to deal with people struggling. They're throwing things like wellness projects at them, go and do more. It's like, no, we need to fundamentally change the system of leadership to support people to be able to fulfill their potential. And that means us as leaders taking responsibility to get to know ourselves so that we can engage and do that and support other people. It's almost like I see coaching and leadership becoming a lot closer. They've always been fairly similar in terms of the skill sets, but actually having leaders who enjoy leading people, who will support other people to achieve their full potential, and who are, wanting to actually create positive change in the world. Because fundamentally, I believe deep down, everybody is trying to create positive change in the world. And if you go at it like that, I'm very curious all of a sudden as to how we can have the engagement numbers and the other statistics that we're seeing around us as a reflection of that. It doesn't make sense. We need to support leaders to be able to do this fundamentally differently.
Yeah. I think one of the key qualities that are being undervalued in the corporate world is that emotional intelligence and also empathy from leaders towards their staff, towards the people. And ultimately, really missing out, I think, on that engagement and connection, the human connection, because ultimately, we need that connection. People are not just built like robots. We're not computers, right? We are human beings. But when you have a leader, I believe, that has empathetic qualities and emotional intelligence enough to engage people and motivate them, the workforce not only is going to be happier, but it will also be much more productive, as opposed to trying to throw all these productivity tools at them and nothing is working.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what I say is the values of new leadership are courage, connection, contribution, compassion, commitment, but also fairness. Because actually, I only read an article yesterday, I think it was a McKinsey report that was saying about the burnout. And it was basically saying that there are systems in the business that need to be fundamentally changed, such as being able to have difficult conversations, being able to remove toxic individuals who aren't living the company values from the workforce to enable everybody else. And they're saying, this is very much more important than throwing more yoga or whatever at people and asking them to do more to look after themselves. It's like everyone's overwhelmed. So asking them to do more is not going to help. We need to help smooth the way to allow them to shine.
Yeah, for sure. So why is this relevant for women right now, especially for women, as we look into the landscape of what's going on in business and leadership and this whole disconnect? Where do women play a role in it?
I think women play a huge role. There are two reasons why I say that. The first one is that there's an awful lot that's coming into play which are promoting women within businesses. Like them or hate them, quotas are here, and you've seen the last one that came out, I think last week, about 40% women in leadership in organizations. So that one's there, quotas are there. There's more and more statistics around us from all of the big four consultancies about how women are more attuned to lead in times of change. Now, we've got unprecedented times of change around us right now because of what you've just said, because of connection, because of empathy, because they've got these skills, these human skills, to connect with people and to support them on this journey. So you've got that side of it, which actually means that women are more sought after right now in leadership roles. So if you're a woman with some experience in leadership, then actually your value has just gone up. So if you're considering a change, it's almost like, well, why wouldn't you look at it now? Because yes, you might be doubting yourself, but you do have those skills. You can contribute because you're trying to do it differently. And this is the power of, obviously, my business is called Unique You. This is the power of being unique. Actually, of being in an industry which is full of men, to actually say, actually, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to start challenging. I'm going to take a stand for what's important to me. Now, to be able to do this boldly, you've got to get to know yourself. You've got to understand it, because that's where you can really create the impact and really get excited behind what it is that you're trying to achieve. But the potential is there. And, I'm seeing clients going out and all of a sudden things are appearing in the world, like jobs they didn't know were there, in organizations maybe more aligned to their own values. So they go in and they can actually create more impact. And others who are actually stepping back in boldly into their current job, but because they've got a different way of communicating, because they're taking a stand for something, all of a sudden the impact they're making is different. So there's a bit, obviously, about us as women leaders, that we get to choose where we actually invest our time, energy. And why not invest it having a bit more fun, playing to your strengths, and being able to create the change you want to create, rather than sitting in a role where you maybe feel stuck or underappreciated.
Yeah.
And it's such a big opportunity to move or shift the system of leadership, of corporate, to really be ready to innovate. We're not going to create the innovation that we need to drive our society forward without having a much more balanced approach to leadership. And, there's always this saying, and I'm a B Corp, so it's important for me, but we can't get sustainability without going through equality.
Wow.
And we can't push that on to the next generation. We each need to take our stand for what it means for us.
I was just going to say, at this time of the year, and as we're going through big global change, sometimes making that individual change can feel really scary, right? It could feel leaving your job and going for the unknown, going for a bigger role that now all of a sudden requiring more from you. What's the opportunity there to do it now? Why should women start to think about stepping into leadership positions and actually start pursuing these opportunities that are out there or opening up in the corporate world?
I would say that the discomfort that you're feeling is the only indicator that you need that something needs to change. So if you're feeling that discomfort, then that's your opportunity, because change happens when we are uncomfortable. And believe me, when I left industry, it didn't feel comfortable. It felt very uncomfortable, but I put a structure in place to help me decide what I wanted to do. And obviously, there are a lot of us that, as coaches, create these spaces for people to grow. I mean, I do it in groups, I do it as individuals. I know there are other people within our Thrive Summit who do it differently. But being able to have a structure to help you actually decide what it is you want. There are online programs where you can also, understand a bit more as to who you are, what you want to do. And that will just give you the confidence to actually start. It's almost like taking baby steps. Start by looking around, start by broadening a bit, finding people who maybe are excited by the same things that you are, creating a community, or looking into what communities are already there. There are lots of them. Because when you're not feeling alone, you've got an awful lot more energy and confidence, I think, to actually make those steps. And quite often when people come into my programs, they just don't quite know what they're going to achieve. And they come out the other end and say, if I'd have only known back then what I was going to be able to get out of this, I would have easily said yes. So it is about taking that first step, whatever that step feels like for you, but almost thinking of it as in, if you're going to look back in 12 months and say, I'm proud of myself, this is what I've achieved, what would be the first step towards creating that change?
Wow. Really, really powerful question, because it really starts with that decision. It starts with one thought, one decision right now to actually, even if it feels uncomfortable, to step into that. So, as some of you may know, we do have upcoming Women Thrive Summit, and Sarah is a speaker on our summit. And this is really our opportunity to do our part in creating this supportive environment for you to flourish, for you to grow, to thrive in your career, in your business, in your personal development. And we really take this holistic approach to business, because we do recognize that without you, without your personal development and your own happiness, there isn't any success in other parts of your life. So we have a diversity of speakers, amazing women in our community who are here to support that journey and that growth. So when you are stepping into new horizons, new opportunities, just new places that perhaps requiring a little bit more from you, you feel supported and you don't feel alone. So Women Thrive Summit is coming up in March. So Sarah, what are you going to be speaking on our stage?
So I'll be talking about why the future of leadership is female and why the world needs you. So almost turning it on its head from you feeling like you're trying to achieve something for yourself to actually looking at the bigger picture. Actually, why is this important to the future generations? I quite often explain this as though the Industrial Revolution, everything that happened then is affecting us today. So everything we do today will affect future generations. So how can we create that? How do we help each other actually create that change so that we create a positive impact, or we're good ancestors is another way of thinking about it? Because each and every one of us has got a unique value, a unique contribution that we can make in this world. And sometimes we're just in the wrong place to actually create that impact.
Yeah, and I know you talk a lot about self-leadership as well. So it's not just, going out there and creating the impact, which of course, if you do it well, but what is that self-leadership that you're talking about?
Self-leadership is about knowing yourself, knowing what's important to you, your values, knowing your strengths, and being able to talk about them in a way that's positive, something that we always seem to have been told is selfish, so it kind of gets put to the back. But actually being able to use that as a way to give others permission to have this space. And then knowing about your life story, what you've been through up until now, and how that impacts how you're showing up in the world. So all of that is around self-leadership, so that you actually know, how do I contribute? Where do I create the most impact? Why is that important to me? Because when you open up yourself, and I often call this the heart of new leadership, then actually where you can create in terms of connecting with others, connecting with different contexts within your business even, but also contributing to a bigger picture, because you are giving more of yourself, but at the same time, you're making sure you're looking after yourself, because this is really important if we're going to create a more sustainable future for life on Earth.
Yeah, I love this message. It's really, really powerful. And yeah, the change starts with us. If we start that change and step into our power, we can make a huge difference. And I feel like for those who perhaps are fearing to step into their power and their shoes, if you like, by not doing that, you creating disservice for the world, for people who maybe you be able to lead in the new direction and the impact that you're able to create. So by questioning ourselves, as we as women do quite a lot, we're not having our greatest potential, right? We're not leaving the greatest imprint on this earth. And what's on the other side of it is mainly regret, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that women don't feel that regret and actually do step into the power of their shoes and really go for it. Because as you say, there are opportunities, a lot of opportunities for women to be relevant right now.
Yeah.
Sarah, how can women get in touch with you, and who do you mainly work with? How do you work with them, and how can they get in touch with you?
So I work with mainly female leaders in industry and also leadership teams to help them become more conscious. So as you said at the start, putting inclusive leadership back at the heart of innovative solutions that we need to create a better future for life on Earth. Now, this starts with this self-leadership, and I run leadership team coaching. I run women's groups coaching, so what I call Design Your Career to Thrive. These are mastermind peer group programs where women can exchange with one another, because actually the power is there when you can hear somebody else telling your story, but in their own words, and all of a sudden you connect with something you've not seen for yourself before. So it really does open up a lot of opportunity when you get a group of people together. And obviously I do individual coaching for those that might need a more intensive support system during a time of change. So those are all ways that I work with teams, and I also do it on the founder side in terms of supporting sort of tech startups, ensuring they've got a values-based business so that when they go for investment, that they can have that conversation. They know who they are, they know what they stand for, and they know how they want to create impact.
Beautiful. Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's really important and really relevant right now. It's needed. And just for being here to share your voice and your message and being part of the summit this year.
Thank you for creating the space.
Thanks. Ladies, thank you so much for watching this conversation with us today. Do feel free to share this live with others and also join the Women Thrive Summit that happens every March as a women empowerment event. This is one of the biggest global annual women empowerment events, and we have 47 speakers featured on our stage, anything from business, marketing, visibility, personal development, leadership. We have some amazing, amazing topics that you just will not want to miss. And of course, being part of the community, getting access to the resources for your personal and professional development. So I look forward to seeing you all on another conversation. Thanks for now.
Take care.
Thanks.